Princess stood in the grand hall of her family's palace and looked out at the tall crystal walls. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Outside, the city of Prime spread across the landscape like jewels on a table. She was 23 standard cycles old now. The Empire knew her as a smart diplomat and a kind leader, but inside her mind, there was something she could not explain. A memory lived in her thoughts. It was old and broken into pieces. She had been 3 years old when it happened. Someone had tried to kill her that night, did not know who or why, but she remembered one thing very well: a voice. A man's voice, deep and rough like rocks falling. The voice had said words to her in the darkness, words that made her feel safe when everything else felt dangerous. She tried to remember the voice more clearly now. The words were not Etherian. They came from a different place, a different world. Earth, the human world, had spent many years studying human culture and human language. She knew now that the voice belonged to a human. A human man had been in the palace that night. He had been near her, but the memory was not clear. It was like trying to see something through thick fog. Her father, Emperor, had never spoken about that night. The palace records were locked away. No one was allowed to talk about it, had asked many times when she was young. Her father would say only that she was safe now and that she should not think about bad things. The older she got, the more she wanted answers. The court historians said her Etherian guards had saved her. They talked about the skill of her protectors and how brave they were, but knew in her heart that this was not the whole truth. Something was hidden, something important, and it was connected to that voice. She walked to the window of the grand hall. The 3 moons of Prime were starting to show in the sky even though it was still day. Soon it would be night, and all 3 moons would shine together. The sight always made feel peaceful, but today she felt restless and unsettled. A messenger entered the hall and bowed to her. The messenger's skin was smooth and pale blue like all Etherians. The messenger carried a data tablet in long, thin fingers. Knew what this meant. A message had come. "Princess," the messenger said with respect, "the council sends word that the human delegation has been approved for the summit. They will arrive in 5 days. Felt her heart move faster. Humans, coming to Prime, coming to speak to the council about joining the alliance. She had wanted this for many years. The Etherian Empire was powerful and old, but humans were something new and different. They were strong in ways that others did not understand, and felt drawn to them. She did not know why, not completely, but her heart knew. "Thank you," she said to the messenger. "Who leads the human delegation?" The messenger looked at the data tablet. "Commander Logan Price. He is from Earth. He has 38 years of experience in space exploration and military affairs. His record is unusual. He was on Prime many years ago, but then he was sent home. No reason is given in the records." Felt something move inside her chest. Logan Price. A human who had been on Prime. A human with a history on this world that seemed to be hidden. She tried to stay calm and show no emotion. "Prepare the welcome chambers for the humans," she said. "Make sure they are treated with respect." The messenger bowed and left, turned back to the window. The afternoon light was getting weaker. Soon the night would come. She walked through the palace halls alone. The walls here were older. The light was softer. These were the private halls where the royal family lived. She went to her chambers and locked the door. In a hidden place she kept something that no one knew about, a small object. It was made of metal and cloth. It was old and worn. Had found it in the palace gardens when she was 12 years old. It had been buried in the dirt, hidden under old stones. It was a rank badge, a human rank badge. It showed that someone had been a soldier, a human soldier. She had kept it hidden all these years. It was the only proof that a human had been here, a human who had mattered. She held the badge in her hands and closed her eyes. She tried to remember the voice again, the deep voice, the rough voice that had said, "Stay quiet, little one. I will not let them harm you." Who was Logan Price? Had he been that voice? Had he been there that night? She did not know, But in 5 days she would see him. In 5 days the human delegation would arrive, and perhaps, just perhaps, she would find the answers that had lived in her mind for 20 years. Put the badge back in its hiding place. She stood and looked at herself in the mirror. Her skin was like the color of snow. Her eyes were large and dark like the night sky. She looked like a princess. She looked strong and sure. But inside she felt like that 3-year-old girl again, waiting in the darkness for someone to save her. The night came quickly. All 3 moons rose together in the sky. The palace glowed with their light, sat alone in her chambers and waited. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She waited for the day when the humans would come. She waited for the day when she would see Logan Price and look into his eyes and know if he was the man from her memory. Clock on her wall counted the hours. 4 days remained, then 3, then 2. Each moment felt long and full of waiting, prepared herself for the summit. She studied human culture harder than ever. She learned more about their world, their history, their way of thinking. But really, she was preparing to meet one human, one man who might hold the key to her past. The human transport ship came through the sky of Prime like a bird of different shape and color. It was not beautiful like Etherian ships. It was made of gray metal and strong lines. It was a working ship built to be strong and to live through hard times. Watched it land from a high window in the palace tower. Her heart beat fast. They were here. Commander Logan Price stepped out of the ship first. Saw him from far away, but she felt as if something inside her recognized him right away. He was old, much older than the other humans. His hair was gray and short. His face had lines and marks from many years of living. He walked with the movement of a trained soldier. Every step was careful and controlled. Every look was sharp and watching. Price moved slowly down from the ship. The Etherian welcome team was waiting for him. They stood in lines, tall and perfect in their formal clothes. Price looked at them and nodded. He did not smile. He did not look afraid. He just looked at them like he was reading a book written in words he understood. Could not look away. She pressed her hand against the window. Something in her mind was saying yes. Yes, this is him. But something else was saying, wait, you cannot know this. You must be sure. The other humans came down from the ship, 2 men and 1 woman. They were younger than Price. They looked more nervous. They looked at the strange world around them like they had never seen anything like it before. But Price just moved like this was normal, like he had been here before. That was when she knew that Price had been on Prime before. She knew that his record on the data tablet was correct. But what was hidden? What had happened to him? The welcome team brought the human delegation into the palace, watched them walk through the grand halls. The humans looked small in the tall spaces. Their shoulders were different from Etherian shoulders. Their eyes were different. Their whole bodies were different. But Price walked like he belonged here. His eyes looked at the walls and the lights like he was remembering things. Turned away from the window. She could not let anyone see her watching. She had to act like a princess. She had to be calm and formal. She had to hide the storm of questions that was growing inside her mind. The official welcome ceremony would happen that evening. Went to her chambers and dressed in the formal clothes of her position. The clothes were made of materials that shone like water and felt like air. She put on the marks of her rank, rings on her fingers, a band across her forehead. Everything showed that she was a princess of the Etherian Empire. When she entered the ceremony hall, everyone stood. The humans stood too. Price stood with his shoulders back and his head straight. His eyes moved across the room and then they stopped. They stopped on. For just one moment their eyes met. Felt like lightning had struck inside her chest. Price's face changed. Something moved across his face very fast. Recognition, maybe, or pain, maybe memory. But then his face became calm again. Formal, like a soldier being still for inspection. His father emperor sat on the throne at the end of the hall. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like ice. His eyes were cold and dark. He looked at the humans like they were things that had been brought to him by mistake. "Welcome," the emperor said. His voice was smooth and cold like a blade. "The Etherian Alliance allows you to speak, but know this, we have seen many species come to us. Many have wanted to join our empire, most have been found unworthy." Price did not move. He did not react to the words, but could see his jaw become tight. She could see his hands become fists for just a moment. The ceremony continued with words about protocol and rules and the order of speaking at the summit. Had to stand and smile and show no feeling. But her mind was full of thoughts. Was this man Price the one from that night? The one from her memory? Why had he been sent away? Why was his record hidden? After the ceremony ended, the humans were taken to their quarters. Watched Price walk away. He moved down the hall with the younger humans, and as he left, saw something. On the inside of his wrist, where his sleeve moved up just a little, she saw a mark. A burn mark, old and healed but still dark on his skin. She remembered something then, a small thing from her broken memory. She remembered heat. She remembered the feeling of strong arms around her, protecting her from something hot. She remembered a smell like burning. Had that been real, or was her mind making things up? That night could not sleep. She sat in her chambers and thought about the burn mark on Price's wrist. She thought about the way he had looked at her in the ceremony. She thought about the deep voice from her memory. She took out the badge again, the human rank badge. She looked at the markings on it. They meant something. They told a story, the story of a human soldier who had been here, a soldier who had been important enough to hide away. Morning came, and then the next day, and then the next. The summit would start soon, but before that, knew what she had to do. She had to see Logan Price alone. She had to look into his eyes and ask him the questions that lived in her heart. She had to know the truth about that night 20 years ago. And she knew how to make it happen. The palace gardens grew wild and beautiful under the light of the 3 moons. No one went there at night except guards, but guards could be told to stay away if the princess wished it. Gardens were places where princess could think and be alone. In the gardens, under the light of 3 moons, would wait, and she would ask Commander Logan Price to come to her. She would ask him to tell her the truth, and whatever he said, she would know then. She would know if he was the man from her memory. She would know if her whole life had been built on a lie. The 3 moons hung in the sky like watching eyes, stood in the palace gardens among the flowers that only bloomed when starlight touched them. The flowers were blue and green and colors that had no names. They made light come out of themselves in the darkness. The garden looked like a place that did not belong to the real world. She had sent a message to Logan Price. The message was written by hand, old style like humans used to do on their own world. She had written it carefully in human language. "Come to the gardens when all 3 moons are high. Come alone if you can. I need to speak with you about the past." She did not know if he would come. She did not know if he would understand, but she waited anyway. When Price stepped into the gardens, breath became tight in her chest. In the light of the 3 moons, she could see his face clearly, every line, every scar. His eyes were sharp and careful, but when he saw her, something changed in them. "Princess," he said. His voice was deeper than the other humans' voices. It was rough and slow, but it was not unfamiliar. It was like hearing music that you had forgotten you loved. "You knew my name before anyone spoke it to you," said. She did not ask it as a question. She said it as a thing that was true. Price did not deny it. He walked slowly toward her, careful not to come too close. "I did," he said. "I have known your name for a very long time." Looked at his wrist. The burn mark was visible now, dark and old and healed. "You were here before," she said. 20 years ago, you were in this palace." Price closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they looked sad, deep sad, the kind of sad that comes from memories that hurt even now. "Yes," he said, "I was here. I was sent here as part of an exchange. Human soldiers and Etherian soldiers were supposed to learn from each other. It was supposed to help our peoples understand each other. I was proud to be chosen. I thought it meant something important." "What happened?" asked. "Why were you sent away?" Price took a breath. There was an attack on the palace, on the royal family. He looked away from her face. There were people who did not want humans on Prime, who did not want any kind of peace between our peoples. They sent soldiers in the night, good soldiers, trained soldiers. They came to kill the ones who believed in peace. They came to kill the imperial family. His hands became cold. She knew this. She remembered pieces of this. She remembered fear. I was awake that night when I should have been sleeping, Price continued. I was walking the halls because I could not rest. I thought about my home on Earth. I thought about my family. And then I heard sounds, sounds of violence. I heard screams. He paused. His jaw became tight. I ran toward the sounds. That was against orders. That was wrong. But I heard a child screaming, a small child. I could not just stay still and let that happen. Felt tears come to her eyes, but she did not stop them. I found you in the corridor, Price said. You were alone. Your guards were fighting in another part of the palace. You were small. You were so small and you were so afraid. He looked at her directly now. You were 3 years old. Your hair was long then. Your eyes were too big for your face because you were scared. Every word was true. Could feel it in her bones. She could feel it in her memory that was no longer broken into pieces. I picked you up, Price said. I told you to stay quiet. I told you not to be afraid. I did not know if I could keep you safe. I did not know if I was strong enough, but I knew I had to try. You held onto my neck and you cried, but you stayed quiet. You trusted me, a stranger, and you trusted me. Could see Price's hands were shaking. She had never seen a grown human look this way, so affected by old pain, so open and real. I ran to the safest place I knew, the weapon storage. It was protected, it was hidden. The assassins chased us, but I knew the palace layout better than they did. I had studied it for months. I used that knowledge to hide you, and we waited. We waited in the dark for hours. I held you and whispered to you. I told you that you were safe. I told you that I would not let anyone hurt you. His tears fell now. I remember your voice, she said. I remember it said my name. It said, stay quiet, little one. I will not let them harm you. I remember that your arms were warm. I remember feeling safe. Price nodded. When the palace guards finally found us, I gave you to them. I told them where the assassins were. I helped them stop the attack. For a moment, I felt like I had done something good. I felt like I had saved a life that mattered. I felt like maybe the exchange program had meant something. Maybe I had shown that humans could be trusted. But something happened, said. She could feel the rest of the story, the sad part, the part that explained why he had been sent away. Your father arrived, Price said. Emperor, he saw me. He saw that it was a human who had been with you. He was angry, angry at the assassins, angry at his guards, angry at me. He said that humans were dangerous, that humans had brought trouble to his palace, that his daughter had been touched by human hands while she was in danger, that the whole world would know that an Etherian princess had been saved by someone so primitive. The word hung in the air like poison. He ordered me sent away, Price continued. He told me that my record would be sealed. He told me never to speak of what happened. He told me that the story would be that Etherian guards saved you. He said that if I ever told anyone the truth, I would be dead before I reached Earth. That is not fair, said. The anger in her voice was real and sharp. You saved my life, you risked everything, and he punished you for it. I did not do it for rewards, Price said. I did it because it was right. I did it because you were a child. I did it because being strong enough to use weapons is not the same as being strong enough to do what matters. I did it because you mattered. Walked toward him. She was not afraid anymore. The broken pieces of her memory were whole now. The voice was not a mystery anymore. The burn mark on his wrist, the deep, rough voice, the arms that had held her in the darkness, all of it was real. All of it was Logan Price. Why did you come back? She asked. Why would you come back here? Why would you risk facing my father again? Price looked at the 3 moons. Because I wanted to see if the little girl I held in my arms had become the kind of person worth all of that. I wanted to see if you had grown into someone who would make that moment mean something. When I was told I could be part of the delegation to this summit, I knew it was my chance." He looked at her. "And I can see now that you have. You have become someone remarkable, someone kind, someone who fights for peace and understanding. That makes everything I gave up worth it." Felt something break inside her, not break bad, break open, break free. She had spent 20 years wondering about that voice, 20 years not knowing who had saved her, and now she knew, now it was real. Now she could make it right. The morning came cold and clear. Guards appeared in the garden and brought Price back to the palace. They said nothing. They showed nothing on their pale faces, but knew that Emperor had discovered their meeting. She could feel it like a storm coming before the rain starts. Her father was waiting in the throne room. The room was large and empty and made to feel small under his anger. Had seen her father angry before. She had seen him give hard orders and make difficult choices, but she had never seen him like this. His whole body was tight. His face was hard. His eyes were cold and dark like winter. "You met with a human," he said, not asked, said, like it was already decided what this meant. "Yes, father," said. She did not look away from him. She did not show fear, even though fear lived in her chest. "In secret," he continued. "In the gardens, away from guards, away from witnesses. This is what you do when you represent the Etherian Empire." "I needed to speak with Commander Price about something personal," said. "Something that belongs to me, not to the Empire." "Everything that belongs to you belongs to the Empire," said. His voice was like ice breaking. "You are the Princess of Prime. You do not have personal things that do not affect all of us." Price stepped forward. "Emperor, this was not the princess's doing. I asked for the meeting. I used my rank to get information about her schedule. I made the request. Do not blame her for my actions." Turned to Price with eyes that wanted to cut him down. "Of course you did. Humans always take what they want, always assume they are permitted. You came to this world 20 years ago and brought trouble with you. You brought danger. You brought violence to my palace. And now you come again and still you assume you can do as you please." "That is not what happened," said. Her voice was strong and clear. "Commander Price saved my life that night. He protected me when the assassins came. He risked everything to keep me safe." The throne room became very quiet, very still. Stood up from his throne, he was tall. His shadow fell across the floor like a blade. "He told you," the Emperor said, not as a question. "He told me the truth," said. "He told me what really happened that night. He told me that it was a human who kept me alive. And I need to know, Father. I need to know why you hid this from me. I need to know why you would deny what he did." Turned away from her. He walked to the window. Outside, the city of Prime spread below them. Everything beautiful, everything perfect. Everything built by Etherian hands over thousands of years. "Because," he said slowly, "a princess of the Etherian Empire cannot owe her life to a human. Because if the truth had become known, every other world in the Alliance would have questioned our strength. They would have questioned our leadership. They would have wondered how a primitive species could do what our guards could not." He turned back to face her. "I did what a leader must do. I protected the Empire." "You protected your pride," said. "You did not protect the Empire. You protected yourself from shame." His face became darker. "You are young, and you do not understand how power works. You do not understand that truth can be a weapon that others use against you." "I understand enough," said. "I understand that this man was treated badly because he was not Etherian. I understand that you punished him for being brave and strong. I understand that you built a lie instead of accepting that humans are not what you believe them to be." Looked at Price. "Why should I believe what you say? Why should I believe that you did not have other reasons for being in those halls that night? Why should I believe that you did not use this event for your own purpose?" Price did not become angry. He did not shout or defend himself hard. He just stood straight and still. "You should not have to believe anything I say," he said. "You should have your own records, the records from that night, the records that show what happened, The records you sealed because the truth did not match the story you wanted to tell. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You will come with me, both of you, to the archives." The archives were deep under the palace, in rooms that were older than the city above. The records of the empire were kept here, thousands of years of history, thousands of years of truth and secrets, brought them to a room with sealed doors. He used his hand and his voice to unlock them. Inside were records from the night of the attack, medical records, guard reports, security logs, all of it written in the formal Etherian way. Read them as her father read them to her. Every word matched what Price had told her. The assassins had come from outside. They had targets on the royal family. The attack had been stopped by a combination of guards and one human soldier named Logan Price. The human had brought the princess to safety. The human had helped identify the assassins. The human had been dismissed from the palace the next day, with orders to speak of this to no one. And at the bottom of all the records in its own writing were the words, "This event is classified. The truth of the human's involvement will be hidden. The official story will be that Etherian guards protected the princess. The human will be sent home with orders of silence. His record here will be sealed. This is for the good of the empire." Looked at her father. "You knew the truth all along," she said. "You had proof, and you still kept the secret." "I kept the secret because I am the emperor," said, but his voice was not as hard now. It was tired. "I did what I thought was right." "You did what was easy," said. "You did what protected your image. You did not do what was right." Was quiet. He looked very old suddenly, very tired. The weight of keeping the secret for 20 years showed on his face. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. Looked at Price. Then she looked back at her father. "The truth," she said. "You must tell the truth. You must tell everyone what really happened that night. You must tell them that a human was brave enough to do what needed to be done. You must stop hiding it." "And what will that cost me?" asked. "What will that cost the empire?" "Maybe it will cost you some pride," said, "but it will give us something worth more. It will give us honor, real honor. Not the kind that comes from hiding things, but the kind that comes from being strong enough to tell the truth." Emperor looked at the records in his hands. He looked at the words he had written all those years ago, and very slowly he nodded. The summit chamber was filled with delegates from 100 worlds. The Etherians sat in the center, tall and pale and powerful. Around them sat the other species that had joined the alliance over thousands of years. Some had skin like stone. Some had multiple eyes. Some moved on 6 legs. All of them had come to hear what would be decided about humanity. Emperor stood to speak. The whole chamber became quiet. Everyone knew that something was different. Something had changed in the empire. Could see it in the way delegates leaned forward. She could see it in the way they whispered to each other. "I come before you today," said, his voice strong and clear, "to tell you something that I should have told you 20 years ago. I come to tell you about an act of courage that I hid from the world because I did not have the strength to accept the truth." The chamber became even quieter. 20 years ago, an attack happened in my palace. An attack meant to kill my family, to kill those who believed that peace between species was possible, to kill those who wanted unity instead of separation. Looked directly at Commander Price, who stood with the human delegation. A human soldier stopped this attack. A human soldier risked his own life to save the life of my daughter. A human soldier did what our guards could not do fast enough. And I, in my shame and pride, hid this truth from all of you. I told you that Etherian guards had saved her. I told you that humans were not to be trusted. I told you that my people did not need help from anyone else. He paused. "I was wrong." Those 2 words sent a shock through the chamber. An emperor admitting he was wrong was not something that happened often. Watch the reactions. Some delegates looked angry. Some looked surprised. Some looked like they were thinking very hard about what this meant. "I was wrong because I let fear guide me instead of truth. I was wrong because I was more afraid of losing power than I was committed to telling the truth. And I was wrong about humanity. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are brave and strong and capable of sacrifice that matches any species in this alliance. Continued to tell the whole story. He told about the night of the attack. He told about Price's actions. He told about how Price had been dismissed and sent away for his service. He told about all of it. By the time he finished, many delegates were leaning back in their seats, thinking about what this meant. And so, said, I bring before you not just a request to include humanity in our alliance. I bring before you a request to honor the human species. I bring before you Commander Logan Price, who has waited 20 years for the truth to be told. And I bring before you my apology, not just to him, but to his entire world. The human delegation stood. The other humans had not known about this, could see shock on their faces as they understood what was happening. Price remained still. His face showed nothing, but could see something in his eyes that looked like peace. Then the presentation began. The human delegation spoke about Earth. They spoke about human invention and human art and human science. They spoke about human potential. They spoke about what humans could offer to the alliance. And they spoke with the confidence of people who knew that they had earned the right to be heard. The votes came after many hours of discussion. The count was clear. The humans would be accepted into the Etherian alliance as equals, not as servants, not as subjects, but as equals, and they would have the same rights and protections as any other member species. When the vote was announced, the human delegation stood. Some of them had tears on their faces. They had come to this moment after years of being treated as if they did not matter. Now they mattered. Now they had a place in the galactic community. That evening, when the ceremony was finished and the delegates were leaving to celebrate or argue among themselves, Price walked alone in the palace halls, found him and walked beside him. "Thank you," she said, "for telling me the truth, for helping me understand. I am sorry that your father was not ready to hear the truth until now," Price said. "I am sorry that you had to wait so long for answers." "You are not responsible for what my father did," said. She stopped walking and turned to face him. "I have something to ask you. My father made me ask it, but I want it to be from me, not from him." Price waited. "He has offered you a position," said. "An ambassador, a representative of human interests in the palace, full citizenship, full honors, everything that should have been given to you 20 years ago. Will you accept?" Price looked away. "I had planned to go back to Earth with the delegation. I had planned to tell them what happened, now that the truth could be spoken. I had planned to spend the rest of my life there with my family." Felt her heart fall. She had known he might say no, but she had hoped. "But," Price continued, "I have been thinking about something. I have been thinking about how many years I have left. I have been thinking about what work is still worth doing. And I have been thinking about that little girl in my memory, the one who trusted me in the dark, the one who is now a woman working to make the galaxy a better place." He looked at her. "I will stay. I will take the position, but only if I can do it my way. Only if I am allowed to speak for humans, not for the Empire. Only if I am allowed to tell the truth about my people, and not just the things that make the Etherians look good." Smiled. "I would not accept any other answer." They walked together to the gardens. The 3 moons were starting to show in the sky. The flowers were beginning to glow with their night light. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. "You know," Price said, "I used to think that saving your life that night was a moment that I would never get back, a moment that would be hidden and forgotten. I thought it was lost time, work that did not matter because no one would know about it." Bud asked. "But now I understand," Price said. "That moment was the beginning of something. It was the beginning of you knowing that humans matter. It was the beginning of you fighting for peace with my people. It was the beginning of all of this. One moment, one decision to do what was right, and it changed everything." Looked up at the 3 moons. Somewhere out there beyond the stars was Earth, a world that humans called home, a world that had sent Logan Price to save her life, A world that had been changed by one man's choice. "What do you think will happen now?" asked. "What will come from all of this?" Price looked at the stars. "I think the galaxy will become a different place," he said. "I think humans will be able to show the other species what we are really capable of. And I think that because of you, because of your courage to ask the hard questions and fight for the truth, the future will be better than the past." They stood in the garden under the light of 3 moons, a human and an Etherian, connected by a moment from 20 years ago that had finally come to light. And in that moment, they both knew that something important had been born. Not just peace between 2 species, but the beginning of real understanding, the beginning of real friendship, the beginning of a future worth building.